Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Musing On. So, you probably guessed, I thoroughly enjoyed the video I did where I was getting Copilot to do like an AMA and ask me anything for, I think it was music genres, taste and bands. And so, it's really sort of got me into a certain groove. And I thought I'd give this a go as one. So, yeah, we'll see where this takes us. And the question I'm going to start off, or the prompt, should I say, I'm going to start off with to generate a question, is I want to do an AMA on Game of Thrones. Do you have one good question for a watcher of the series to answer? And then we'll see where that takes us. Now, it's been a while since I've watched the series. I actually did watch the series end to end, from the very first series right through to, the very end in order. Although I think by the time I started watching series 1, it may have already been possibly at series 2. I'm just trying to remember. So I didn't literally start watching it at the point it was released, or should I say broadcast on HBO. So there was a bit of a lag there. I've read a couple of the books, and so I was just curious as to how much I could remember. One thing I have been doing a bit, or a lot, I say, over around when I watched it and also recently, is listening to podcasts, particularly the Bald Move podcast channel, whatever you want to call it, because they do other stuff apart from Game of Thrones. And I've been re-listening to some of their episode recaps and stuff like that. So let's just see what I can remember. If you could bring back one character who died in the series, who would it be and why? So the two characters I've always been curious about, and seemingly it appears that they die in the TV series, is the Blackfish. You never see him die on the screen. Jamie just comes on after the battle or whatever it is, where he tries to, they try and capture the castle where the Blackfish is holed up, and he just said he's dead. So the Blackfish is, I had to look this up, because I'm going to have to look up stuff off screen, because I'll go, yeah, I know who I'm thinking about, but I'm trying to remember the actual name. So, and I'll include links to these. Brian Den Tully, yep. So yeah, that's one character. So Game of Thrones season 6. Where is it? Yeah, it's the Frey's and Lannisters celebrate their retaking of Riverrun, the twins. Yeah, a Lannister soldier later reports to Jaime the Blackfish was killed by resisting arrest. So, yeah, that's always been a bit of a question mark for me. I don't know. I just can't. Well, I don't know if I got that far. So it'd be interesting. I do actually have all 5 books. I just haven't read them all. And so it'd be interesting for me to actually read them all and find out how far the books got in relation to the TV series. I've seen like Wikipedia articles that do map it all out, and I was looking one the other day, but I just can't remember where the cutoff was. And probably you're going to guess the other character, who again we don't see, who dies off camera, so to speak, and that is the first sword of Bravos, or Aria's dance teacher, and again, I'm trying to just make sure I get the name right and don't mangle it. There we go. So, he was the first Sword of Bravos, the Sea Lord of Bravos, for 9 years, and that's Sirio Farrell. Yeah, there's so many different names in these series, and so many that are very similar that I always have problems. Okay, so let's try this. So I think I found out if you just do again. Which plot twist in the Game of Thrones shocked you the most, and how did it change your view of the series? Right. It's interesting as well. It's sort of obviously coming back with suggested answers, and of course it's interesting because you can end up in this sort of almost like situation where you've got Copilot talking to itself, or I could click on this and then get into this loop, and that can prove to be very interesting, actually, doing those sort of things on here. But that's not what we're trying to achieve here. I'm trying to use it to help with my memory. Actually, this is a really good memory exercise as well, and I recommend you try it out with various things. And again, if there's any other topics you'd like me to give this a whirl with and record, then let me know in the comment section. So, which plot twist in Game of Thrones shocked you the most, and how did it change your view of the series? I mean, the death of again, see, it's knowing all their nicknames tends to stick in your head. Oh no, what was his name? It was oh dear me. The Mountain and the Viper. That was a pretty shocking death. Where is it? In here. In King's Landing. Yeah, so this is the result of, that trial by combat that Tyrion has requested when he's accused of murdering Joffrey. And he picks Oberon as his champion. And I'm trying to remember actually the context of how that occurs, whether or not in the prior to this he's just asked for somebody, or someone actually just stepped up automatically, because there's a whole backstory around why Oberon Martel wants to go up against Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, which I'm not going to attempt to recount here. And it's interesting as well because there's been another memorable trial by combat was when we first sort of get, not properly introduced, but the one where Bronn fights on Tyrion's behalf, by the moon door in the Eyrie. So it's another trial by combat. And then later on in the series, doesn't the Tommen end up banning trial by combat at the request of the sparrow, I think, something like that. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah. Just got to look that up now. What was he? Was he called the head sparrow? The high sparrow. That was it. The high sparrow. Yeah. But yeah, so gone off down a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, that trial by combat between the mountain and the viper. So between Gregor Clegane and Oberon. Yeah, as well, it would have been nicer to have more Oberon. I quite like that character. So, yeah. Change the fate of any character. Yeah, so I mean that sort of leads into that in some degree. I mean, it would have been interesting to see, you know, more of him, more of Oberon. But I mean, I suppose like a lot of people, when you watch the series, there's you know, characters that you were following that, you know, died suddenly. In you know, at the end of an episode, or which was a reoccurring theme in the series, and I was just trying to think. I mean, yeah, actually, I'm trying to think what series Renly dies in. When Stannis uses in combination with what the Red Witch is the title. They use blood magic, don't they? To sort of summon up whatever it's supposed to be, whether it's some sort of projection of Stannis or some evil entity that kills Renly. So again, it would be interesting. There's certain characters that I think, you know, it would be nice to see them. I've seen them in more episodes. I'm not quite how you could have swung that. So maybe Renly didn't die. I mean, of course, there's all sorts of side. I mean, a lot of this is, of course, involves rewriting the books as a consequence to some degree. But there's that whole bit. I mean, there's loads of bits, and the interesting things in the I think the stories generally is there's points in the story where if someone zigs instead of zags, it sets everything off in a whole different way. Actually, I've never really thought about that before. That the sheer amount of causal decision points in the series as a whole that sort of get condensed down. You're never quite sure where, you know, things are going to end up, I suppose. Oh look, I didn't even spot that there. Yeah, so yes, those two would be sort of connected. But if I wasn't allowed to say the same person twice, then it'd probably be, more Renly, more development of that character. So what shall I do now? Again. Oh, which house in Games of Thrones do you think should have ultimately ruled the Seven Kingdoms? Yeah. Tyrell. I mean, Oberon's... That's the Martels, isn't it? House Martel. Yeah, I think... Yeah, House Martel, I think. Although... I'm just trying to think what the downside would be. Because that's where all the... you've got all the sand snakes and various other things. Yeah, never been successfully conquered by outsiders. Yeah, I think the Martels actually. I think they're, the palace area looks pretty cool as well. I like that sort of open plan palace area that they have. So architecturally, it's an architectural answer. What was your favourite battle scene in Game of Thrones? I was thinking about this the other day actually, because one of the things you get a lot of on YouTube is clips of certain battles, and they bubble up. And the one I really enjoy, there's sort of, I suppose you could argue it's. I don't know whether I've always considered it to almost be like two parts to it. So let me just look up Blackwater Bay. Blackwater, let's see if that's there. So yeah, the Battle of Blackwater. So there's that initial thing where basically Tyrion leverages wildfire and basically blows up the fleet. And then there's the second bit of that, which is the when they attack the Mudgate as well. So that sort of battle. Well, it is called the Battle of the Blackwater. So yeah, that's a pretty cool battle. And the sort of after, it's not nice as well because that could go any way, that episode. I think that's what makes it so exciting as well. And that's where the Hound goes off, and then you have Tywin Lannister and House Tyrell join the battle. So it is it's like the battle's sort of in the balance at one point. I was trying to think of the person that tries to kill Tyrion, because it was difficult to see, because of what they were wearing. But yeah, it was Sir Mandan. I remember when I watched the episode first of all, for some reason I thought yeah, I mistakenly thought it was the mountain just because of the camera angle. Yeah, and I don't know how long I was mistaken about that, and I realised a while after that, no, it couldn't have been. Yeah, well, because he killed him. Yeah, that wasn't possible. But yeah, at the time, I got a bit confused until I realised after the fact. But yeah, initially I thought, oh, they've killed the mountain. How's that possible? And then it sort of fell into place. So Mandan Moor. Yeah. Kingsguard. Yeah, and then it all sort of comes out of it later. Yeah. That's season 2. Okay. Again. Which character storyline did you find the most compelling? I mean, yeah. I'm trying not to look down here, actually, but I mean, Arya. I suppose the journey was so interesting, like geographically as well, you know. But in terms of I suppose in terms of like it was probably the Hound, I think, when I think about it. Yeah. And of course these overlap. Yeah, that was, you know, it had some interesting twists and turns in that, actually. It's like a, you know, that sort of redemption type arc, I suppose. But it was interesting. I think that the way the storylines of Arya, Brienne, Tarth, and the Hound sort of intersect. Yeah, was pretty cool. Yeah, so I suppose in some ways I really liked how certain storylines intertwined causally. That was sort of pretty cool. There is another interesting, if you think about it, like, you know, one of those like non-character storylines. You know, like certain artifacts in the series, and you know how those changed ownership as well. So, you know, just little thing, you know, like there were certain things that there was a bit of a history to and ended up getting moved around. So things like Longclaw, and you've got, you know, Ned Stark's sword gets melted down and reforged into 2 other swords, one of which is given to Jaime, one of which is given to Joffrey, and then Jaime's one ends up with Brienne. And then, of course, the big one is the knife, which, you know, it follows pretty much all the way through, really, in terms of, you know, being used to try and kill Bran. And then there's that big question about, you know, who actually owns it. So there's a whole story around that, and then, you know, that artifact, you know, goes back to to the was it House of the Dragon stuff that's going on at the moment. So that's so I think, when you think about it, one interesting thing to do is think about the storyline of certain artifacts in the series as well. But I think, in answer to the original question, definitely that the Hound, or the intersection of those three characters, the Hound, Arya, and Brienne of Tarth. I do apologise if I'm mangalising. Yeah. I might stop in a moment. We'll see how we do. If you could have one of the dragons from Game of Thrones, see, the one that I think's really cool is and I'm going to have to look this up because I don't remember what it was referred to, or which one got turned. I think, how can I look this up? Okay, let me start off with Drogon. I'm not talking about Drogon. So which was the one? Yeah. So I think the Ice Dragon's the coolest one when it turns, with the blue, the freezing flame. Does it? Yeah, blue fire it says here. Yeah, so that's the one that I found most impressive. Oh, it looks like I'm going to have fun and games with this now. Yeah, it's Joel that runs all these ads. Stuff has a nasty habit of locking up. I always used to have that problem with other wikis as well. You can probably hear my fan. I don't know if you can. It really goes into overload. These ad heavy sites. I mean, I realise obviously they've got to make money somehow, but yeah, they really overload stuff. Okay. Which character's death impacted you the most and why? Isn't that very similar? I suppose, yeah. Yeah, I've got to think of something other than the death of Oberon. Just trying to think. I mean, I suppose, if you don't know the backstory to the, you haven't read anything in Game of Thrones, probably when the sort of first main character that dies is probably your most shocking. So for me, having never seen the series before, when Ned was killed, it's like, oh wow, they've killed off like one of the main characters in like the first series. And then it's like, okay, this is probably going to happen quite a bit. So I'm trying to just think of anybody that died in the first series. Yeah. I was pretty sad when Hodor died. Holding the door. Yeah, that yeah, that for me, yeah, it would have been nice to have seen Hodor survive to the end of the series, right to the end of the show run. There's also just characters that seem to disappear, you know, they just go, they don't die, they just go away. And sometimes you think, oh, that's a bit of a waste of, you know, a good character. They spent ages building up a character and then they just sort of, yeah, fade away or go off somewhere. Yeah, probably Dawn, same as, you know, an earlier answer to do with which house. So yeah, I just like the look of the place there. Probably somewhere where it's nice and yeah, where the weather's good. certainly nowhere north of the wall, put it that way. But yeah. And some of those libraries, you know, where the maesters are pretty cool. But just maybe to visit. Certainly not Castle Black or the Night Keep or whatever one of the disused ones is on the wall. Which character do you think had the best character development through the series and why? I mean, probably Tyrion, I think. Seemed to have the most exposure. I mean, yeah, there was loads, like, you know, the transformations were really good. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody that no one really thinks of that much that managed to sort of survive to the end. I mean, obviously there's certain characters like Jamie where there seems to be like major transformations and also who had I mentioned already? The Hound. And then it's funny, isn't it? Some characters don't really develop at all. They just maintain their persona all the way through. Like, what's her nickname? Is it the Queen of Thorns or whatever? From the Tyrells. Yeah. So yeah, I think probably it's really Tyrion. I mean, yeah, I just want to know what happened. It'd be interesting to know, like, why things went off the rails so much. I mean, I've got a pretty good idea, you know, that basically, you know, there was obviously keenness from various quarters to get everything done, you know, wheels up, and, you know, it was just for whatever reason, you know, George Martin wasn't able to keep up. So, but it would have been, and I don't know how they could have done it, but I would be curious if, you know, what his, yeah, I'd like to know, like, if he was in 100% total control and could spend, well, maybe that's a bad question, isn't it? Because he, you know, I was going to say spend as long as you like. So it's probably quite good that he had, there was some urgency there, but maybe it would have been good to see like how would he have managed within the time frame that they had. What would he have done differently to ensure that maybe series, what was it, 7 and 8 didn't quite go the way they went. And I mean, obviously you can sort of, if you map through, you can see things going awry, I suppose, as everything got further and further away from the books. And they were working on, his sketches as to where the sort of unreleased, almost unwritten material might be going. Again, I'll have to try and find it and include it in a link. It's actually interesting to see the exact mapping between like the series on the TV and when they sort of run out of source material. And so my question to him would be, like what would you have done differently to maybe make the series end a bit more satisfactorily and still be still, what's the word, complement any potential books nicely. Obviously there's lots of developments in the books that have never been explored, like the whole line with the character, was it Lady Stoneheart, which if you're not familiar with it, sure you can look it up. So that sort of question about just, there it is. Actually, I didn't even see it again. Yeah, the fate of Lady Stoneheart. But just again, what would he have done differently in the TV series to make things happen a bit better? Okay, I think I'm going to stop there. It's tempting to do one more, but I think that's enough for the moment. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.